Hi there, welcome to Mini Math Lessons with Karen. And today I am working with the CG50. It's Casio's color graphing calculator. It is, if you look over here, it's the newer version of the CG10, so the Prism. So this is the newest version, updated, a little more functionality, that type of thing. So I am going over an activity today, and you'll see it's right here in this Prism sampler. Called Flying Fish, and I chose it because I really wanted to highlight one of the coolest things I love about the CG50 is it has embedded pictures in it already, and even some movies if you think about it, and you can actually do some real world plotting of things that happen, so a really nice connection for students. So this is going to basically walk through the steps of how to get a picture up, how to plot points, how to then do a regression. I'm following what's in this activity, and the activity is attached to the description. I have a link to where you find a lot more than just this one activity, but I'm doing the flying fish one. So one thing I want to talk about as I'm going through here, this is a complete lesson. So you could do this with students. They could walk through it themselves, however you want to do it. If you're using the emulator, so I'm using the emulator here. But notice it's got standards, objectives, it's got things that they should know before they try to do the activity. You know, there's some prior knowledge embedded here, some definitions, things that should make sure they know. So all of this is how to start, and then there's teacher notes. So I'm showing you how to do all the things that are here in this teacher note thing. And I did want to point out, this is from the Prism, the CG10 version, so the menu icons are a little different, but it's the same idea. You're simply going to go look for the picture plot. And the steps, that's the beauty of Casio calculators, is if you know one layout, you know the other. So that hasn't changed. So I'm going to be walking through the how-to basically. So I'm not going to even dwell on this. You can look at that at your own time and your own leisure. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of it. And I just wanted to go down to the activity itself. So notice the activity itself starts with questions. Like, let's look at this. What do you notice happening? What kind of relationship do you think is happening? And then we're going to collect some data. And then students notice are going to be collecting the data from hand. And then they could come up with the equation by themselves manually. I'm going to use a regression in my example, but you don't have to do that. You can do a lot of things. So let's just get to it. So you want to go to the picture plot first. So here's our menu icon in CG50, and you're just going to use this arrow left, right, up, down, and I'm going to go down till I see the icon that says picture plot. So arrow over there. Once I have it highlighted, I hit execute. That gets me into it. And I obviously did not get out of where I was before. There we go. This is where it should actually take you. It should take you to this. So I apologize. I forgot to clear out my calculator. So it takes you to this where you see some folders and there's pictures. So I'm going to go into this top folder right here, Casio. So I'm going to hit execute. And there's two other folders. The first one is for like little videos, and then these are just pictures. So I'm going to go into the first one because this is flying fish, and so they actually do fly. So all of the ones here in the G3B folder have some type of movement, so you can actually see the path of something, and I'll show you that when we get to the fish. So I'm going to go down to jump and fish, and I'm going to hit execute to open it. Doesn't look like anything's moving right now. So what I want to do is hit options. So options are always what you click to see if there's other things you can do with whatever is on the screen. So our menus are related to what you're doing. So I have some options. I could plot points, which we're going to do. I can see the list of points that I've plotted. This right here, whenever you're in a Casio graphing calculator and you see this little arrow, it means there's more. So I'm going to hit the F6, and here's where I want to go into play. So I want to just show you, because this relates to the first question, is watch what's happening. So I can either do it auto, so it's going to be like a movie, or manually. I'm going to do auto just so you can see that. So the students are going to watch, and this fish is going to jump out, and they're going to kind of go, what's happening to the fish? Is his jump a line? Is he jumping in a line? Is he jumping in a circle? Is he jumping in a curve? What graph, what kind of equation, what kind of curve might fit that path? So they can watch it and kind of come up with their own suggestions here. To stop it, you hit execute. Now it does take just a couple seconds for it to kind of recognize that I've asked it to stop. So Just give it a few seconds here and it will come back to that auto and manual. So there we are, back to auto and manual. And in Casio graphing, if I want to get back to the screen before, I'm going to hit exit until I get back to where I want to be. So I want to be back at this option. And now I've seen the video. Now I think it's a certain curve. So maybe I say I think it looks like a parabolic, or maybe I thought it was linear. Now we're going to actually plot some points. And this is the cool thing, because you can basically track the fish in this particular instance as he's moving. So I'm going to choose plot, so F2 underneath it. And what that does is bring up this arrow. So I'm going to use my arrow key to move that, and I'm going to go with the middle of the fish. I'm going to keep track of where is the middle of the fish. So once I move my arrow to where I think I want to plot a point, I hit execute, and it plots a point, and notice it automatically moves the fish to the next location. So I'm just going to basically follow that path of the fish and keep plotting points until he gets into the next bowl. Now, this is a really nice kind of discussion to have with the students. You want consistency, right, if you're trying to follow a path. So I chose my points always to be kind of the middle of the fish. Well, maybe you have some students that think, well, I like where the tail. I'm going to follow the tail of the fish. And so what that does is create different points, but the same type of a pattern. And so that's a really nice kind of discussion to have, is if they've all were plotting the same path, how come they ended up with different points? And it has to do with what they decided to focus on. And if they don't use consistency, let's say it's the tail one time, it's the middle one time, so maybe their points don't really look like a curve that we're expecting because they weren't consistently following the same part of the fish. Like, I'm trying really hard here to do the middle of my fish. It gets a little hard because he's turning, right? So it keeps plotting points until it's done. So it lets you know when it's done. You hit exit, you're done. So here's my plotted points. Well, how can I see those points? Remember, if I want to know what's up here, if I hit option, actually I want to hit exit again. If I hit exit, there is the list. We did the plot points, and now I want to do a list. I want to see what are those points that I plotted. So I'm going to hit F3 this time, and here are the points, and I can, arrow through the table. So now I have a table of values. And this is where students are going to record those here. And here's, as a teacher, you can make the decision whether you want them to try to find the equation that fits that curve on their own, thinking about, max and min points, interceptions, x intercepts, y, those types of things. So you could do that, or what I'm going to do is to actually then take those points and plot the regression, right? So I'm going to, remember again, this arrow means there's more options, right? So I'm going to click that option and I see regression as a choice. So I am going to hit F3 and it's going to give me all possible types of regressions I could do. And so here's where a student who's looked at the curve is going to make some decisions. Is it a x or linear? No. X cubed? Probably not. So x squared makes sense. Let's choose that. So when I choose F3, it gives me the quadratic regression for that set of points that I plotted. My set of points may be different depending on where they plotted. Did they use the tail versus the middle? So I now have a regression. I want to now graph this and see if it actually fits my curve, right? So notice it has this thing copy here. That means I want to copy this regression equation. So I'm going to hit F5 and it brings me to the graph menu. So I'm going to hit execute and basically it is now, you can double check, it's now put that regression equation into my graph. And so when I hit exit and go back here, now if I hit draw, it's going to put the regression on top of my curve and it looks like a pretty good fit. So if you were doing this by hand, you'd have students do that. But now once they have this curve, then they're going to ask, because this is a fish jumping out of a bowl, they have some other questions they're going to explore. So notice the lesson is, okay, so now you have, your regression, your equation. What's that mean in the context of the story? Does it make sense to have negative values here? what does it actually mean in the context? So some really nice questions that you can ask based on this application, this real world situation of a fish jumping out of a bowl. So have fun with that. The activity again is found, it's called, link that I have attached to the video.